Hello, everyone. Good morning. Thank you very much for taking the time to join our webinar on Windows 10 migration. My name is Molly King, Senior Marketing Manager at FTSI, and I will be your host for this webinar. Now, before we get into it, we have a few logistics to go through. So if you have a question as you are going through or you're experiencing technical difficulties, like you can't see the slides or the audio is an issue, please put something in the question pane and we will address the concern. And if we don't get to your question, we are going to try to get to them at the end in the Q&A session. Some of you may be wondering, will this be recorded? And the answer is yes. We will send out a presentation deck and a recording of this webinar to you all within 24 hours. So today we have three presenters. We have Travis Hoban, Chief Technology Officer at FTSI. He will give a quick overview of Windows 10 and go over the migration timeline. Next, we have Sharon Zitney from NCR, who will talk to you about ATM Software Updates, Windows 7 Extended Security Update Program, and what is your path forward with the migration. Lastly, Bo Watson, VP of Field Operations, will walk you through the implementation process. Okay, so before we begin, we would like to do two poll questions with everyone. The first question is, where are you in the migration process? And if you look over on your screen, I will pull up the poll now for you to select an answer. So we have not yet started planning, we are in the process of planning, or we have finalized our plan. I have just opened the poll for everyone to vote on. And I'm seeing results coming in. That's great. Great. Thanks for everyone's vote. So 75% of you are in the process of planning. And it's good to see that only 8% have not yet started, so that's low, and 70% have finalized your plan. That's great. Now I'm going to pull up the next poll question. Who is your ATM hardware manufacturer? And this is a multiple choice selection, so feel free to check the boxes that apply. Great. Now I'm going to share the results. Okay, so 81% NCR, 22 Diebold, and we have some with mixed fleet. Well, thank you very much for your participation. And now I'm going to hand off to Travis to present.
Great, thank you, Molly. And it's interesting to see those poll results. They pretty much align with what we're seeing out there in the field. Most of our partner credit unions and banks are in the same boat as you all, which is you started the process but don't really have your plan finalized. And that's why we're here today, is to help you get a little bit further along in that process. I know some of you have been on our previous Windows 10 webinars. This one will be a little bit different. This one's going to be a little more tactical, a little more detailed. It's going to talk specifically about the implementation process and what it's going to look like in the field. So how long will your ATMs be down for, and what will that process look like? How will the software be loaded, etc. I do want to do a brief executive overview, and some of you have seen this before, so just hang tight real quick. This is for the multitaskers in the room and the busy people who only have a few minutes to join, but just also it's a good kind of review. These first few slides are just going to be a review, and then I promise you we will provide some really useful content for you. So just a reminder, January 14th, 2020 is the Windows 10 deadline. The migration deadline to go from Windows 7 or another Windows platform to Windows 10. The biggest consideration is ATMs will no longer be PCI compliant, and also important security updates will not be occurring after that time frame. There are a few options for you. You can either replace your ATMs altogether with ones that are Windows 10 ready, or you can upgrade them. The upgrade process involves removing the old PC core, which would basically be the computer of the ATM, the brains of the ATM, and replacing that with the new Esterol core that is ready for Windows 7 and 10. The other consideration is for those who are looking to maybe just upgrade an ATM, keep in mind that some manufacturers are discontinuing their older generations of ATMs, NCR being one of them. They're not the only one, but NCR is one of them. The NCR 30 series has been discontinued January 1st, 2019. We and NCR will still continue to provide support from 5 years from that date. So basically the end of 2023. So the basic gist is that if you will be just upgrading your old 30 series or some other models from other manufacturers, you might just be putting a Band-Aid on the problem and might have to replace those anyways in 3 years, 4 years. So something to keep in mind. Next slide, please, Molly. A brief overview of the timeline. So right now is the time to be talking about and finalizing your migration plan. Are you going to upgrade? Are you going to replace? Obviously, FTSI can help you with that. We can help you determine what makes most sense financially, and also take a look at your fleet and analyze it and give you the appropriate information to make the decision you need. It is taking about 150 days to get hardware. So that's why we say you've really got to have that plan in place now. Place your order on the hardware, whether it be the core or the ATM altogether. Once you place that hardware and it's on its way, then we'll begin scheduling the upgrade and replacement projects. Now, this is going to be done on a first-come, first-served basis. We know that many of you have already placed your orders. You are in the queue, and you will be hearing from us very soon. And some of you, we've actually already started upgrading and replacing the hardware. For those who haven't, we'll get you in the queue, and we will have those done by November of this year. Here's why. The networks will go into a freeze as you all know, in November, basically through the deadline. And so we do not want to be running into any issues with upgrades or replacements at that point, given that the networks will have very limited resources. So our plan is to have everybody done by November, but we'll need your help on that. We'll need you to place the order soon for your hardware. Go ahead, Molly. Besides just the compliance piece, there are some other considerations with Windows 10, and this is the last piece I'll touch on, and then we'll get to the real good stuff here. But Windows 10 enables more functionality at your ATMs. If you think about cardless transactions or the ability to deliver more products and services via your ATMs, whether that be buying concert tickets electronically or additional marketing and promotional services on the ATMs, etc. This is all going to be enabled through Windows 10. There are additional security benefits of Windows 10, which of course is critical to keeping you not only compliant but safe and keeping you out of the news. You don't want to be a headline. Most of the malware attacks and jackpotting and such that has occurred on ATMs has been occurring on ATMs that were still running Windows XP as opposed to running Windows 7. And that's what we'll likely find is those ATMs that continue to stay on Windows 7 are going to be very vulnerable. And then, of course, upgrading your fleet or replacing the cores is going to give you a better give your members and consumers a better experience at the ATM, a faster, more seamless experience. So just want to keep that in mind as you consider upgrading or replacing your fleet. And now we'll have Sharon Zibby get into the real good stuff. This is, she'll be touching on quite a few different topics. Sharon, go ahead.
Thanks, Travis. And thanks, Travis and Molly and everybody for inviting me to talk a little bit about the Windows 10 migration from an NCR perspective. So yeah, that giant clock is ticking. It's 350 days from today is January 14th, 2020, in case anybody is counting. The snippet I have here is what we actually had posted on LinkedIn on the 14th. But yeah, we've got about 350 days till January 14th. Next slide, please, Molly. And 297 days until Thanksgiving. So as Travis had mentioned, we've got the network freezes, and so we just wanted to kind of show visually, really, that it's, 350 days, but reasonably 300 because of the network freezes, hard freezes, soft freezes that will affect getting things done after about Thanksgiving. Next slide. So from a software perspective for Windows 10, NCRs took the approach of taking our existing ATM application software and making it Windows 10 capable. So if you're running NCR ATMs and you're running after Edge today, there is Edge 10, which is the Windows 10 version of the Edge software. If you're running ITMs today and you're running USN software, there is USN 2, which will be the Windows 10 version of the USN software. We thought about making it USN 10, but that was a big jump, so we just went with the USN 2. There are no changes to the EMV kernel. So the EMV kernel 6, which has been in our Edge and ITM software since the beginning of EMV, is still supported. The great news there is networks don't need to do a new brand certification, so it makes the timeline to get the software available much more condensed. The vast majority of cases, there will be no changes to the host downloads. If you add new capability or change new capability, of course, that will, negate that. But we've been working closely with all of the networks. As I call out here, all of the networks are in their certification and control deployment planning phases, and none of them have indicated changes to host downloads. There's no changes to the consumer experience or the transaction options. Again, it's our current software made available with the Windows 10 drivers and support for Windows 10 operating system. What this means to you all is it's an easy upgrade from a software perspective for Windows 10 compliance. As Travis had mentioned, the PC core is a different story, and we'll get to that on the next slide. From an NCR perspective, we are working on an updated user interface with our Activate Enterprise software. That will be available starting the latter part of 2020. We'll be rolling that out and doing some limited deployments next year. We spent quite a bit of time talking about the best approach and decided minimal changes from the application software is going to get everybody to Windows 10 much more quickly. And then we can talk with everybody about changing the user interface and having that project go as a phase 2. Next slide. So again, January 14th, 2020, Microsoft is stopping support for Windows 7. One of the big questions we all had, are they going to extend it? Will they have an extended program like they did with XP? And in September of last year, Microsoft did announce an extended security update program. and it's available for all sorts of endpoints. I'm going to talk specifically here about the ATMs. From an NCR perspective, we're looking at this as a bridge for terminals that won't be Windows 10 ready by the compliance date. It's still best to be on Windows 10. It's going to give you the best opportunities, and we'll talk a little bit more, and kind of as Travis had talked about, to get to the enhanced capabilities. So we're offering a 1-year extension, which will run through January 13th of 2021. This extended security update will only address issues Microsoft identifies as critical. And when Microsoft looks at these issues, they're looking across all of their endpoints. They're looking at the embedded systems that ATM manufacturers use, but they're also looking at desktops, and they're looking at all of the devices. And so something that may be important in the ATM world may not rank in their view as being critical for them to resolve. So while the extended security updates will provide you protection for critical updates, there may still be things that aren't addressed that are important. So being on Windows 10 will give you the most complete protection. NCR, for our requirements, we're requiring that you have a software maintenance contract and that you've also signed the order for Windows 10, the application software, and or the XFS. The XFS is that layer that makes the printers work and the cash dispensers work. So if you're in a multi-vendor world, you still have the Windows 10 XFS that we would need to update. The good news is you can order the extended security update at the unit level. So if you've got 10 ATMs and you know 8 of them are going to be merrily on their way to Windows 10, and there are 2 that are older that you're not going to upgrade, that you can't budget to replace until sometime in 2021, you could do the extended security update just for those 2 terminals. So again, you don't need to do it for your whole fleet, just for those that you won't be Windows 10 ready for. And again, it is a 1-year extension. Next slide. So kind of to highlight and provide additional color to the comments that Travis had made, from a path forward perspective, first thing is to become Windows 10 hardware ready. That's going to be the longest pole, as Travis had indicated. Ordering the hardware, whether it's a new terminal or a PC core upgrade, getting that scheduled to get somebody on site to do that new install is critically important. One of the things to think about while you're doing the PC core replacement, if you need to, is now the time to modernize and or add functionality. So Travis had mentioned that the NCR Self-Serve 30 series are reaching end of life. They'll be supported until 2024. But, those monitors are kind of old. They're kind of small. With our 80 series, we've got 19-inch touchscreen, completely flat panel, a much more modern look and feel, and a much more visually appealing interface. So again, looking at modernizing your hardware to be ready for new application software and some of those new capabilities that Travis had talked to. We also have on our 80 series integrated card readers. So if you get a motorized card reader, it's flush against the screen. It doesn't protrude at all. The dip has a slight protrusion, but those are much more secure. They're much harder to tamper with because they're built into the fascia. If you try to drill in it, you're going to see that crack. So again, better security. And expanded transaction offerings. So is it time to look at, if you're doing regular ATMs, to look at doing ITMs? And then again, to plan for your Windows 10 software deployment, making sure you've got your plans for the software. You've purchased Windows 10. You can purchase it now with migration rights, so you can run Windows 7 until you're Windows 10 ready, or ready to go to Windows 10. And for NCR customers, to help you on your journey to get to an improved user interface, you could also buy Activate Enterprise 3 with downgrade rights. So we can put you with Edge, USN, get you on Windows 10 today. And then when the Activate Enterprise software is available, it's a different upgrade path to get you on the newer software application. Next slide. And just some other things to think about it. Again, the security and the opportunities, and Travis had mentioned those new capabilities. But the improved user experience, our Activate Enterprise, I have a little screenshot here, will require Windows 10 capable software. And that's actually true with the other vendors as well, that again, those are Windows 10 based. The older application software will be reaching end of life. So for example, if you're running Edge 5 today, that's reached its end of life. And so you're going to eventually need to move to your other software platforms. And then the PCI compliance piece about making sure you're protected. Just snagged from that, the PCI compliance, it's the requirement 6.2, because we get that question all the time about being able to prevent from known vulnerabilities by installing those security patches. Next slide. Okay, so that's kind of the update on the Windows 10. I'm now going to turn it over to Bo to talk about the field operations and field update piece of the puzzle.
Hi, good morning, everybody. I'm Bo Watson, the VP of Field Operations for FTSI. So, like as we've been saying along the webinar, if you haven't done so, please get with your provider and decide which machines you need to do upgrades on and which machines will need full replacement. The ordering of a lot of the hardware is 150 days out, as far as 150 days out. And we got to keep in mind there's over 3 million ATMs and ITMs being upgraded or replaced over the next year. So that puts a little damper on the manufacturing of it. Once you've got your hardware and software on order, you want to get with your project manager and make sure that you get your place in line. We do have a first come, first serve, so we want to make sure that you are upgraded before that November deadline that we're looking at due to the network freezes. You want to make sure that you get a dedicated project manager to go over any needs that you have for your installation or swaps or hardware upgrades. ATMs will be pre-staged in our warehouses, so that when we go on site to do the swap, it's already got the software on it. Also, with the PC core swaps, we will be preloading them ahead of time so that it minimizes downtime when we are on site. Next slide. There is also a third situation from the last slide, but you don't have to go back. But if your ATM is already hardware ready, we will be loading the software on site, which could take 2 to 4 hours depending on how many add-ons you have. If you have access to a lab unit, we do recommend that we test the software on that lab unit or a pilot unit for a couple of weeks before you implement through your whole field. Once we're on site for an ATM swap, basically what we're going to do is Armored or the branch is going to go remove the cache, balance the ATM, set it to 0. We're going to print the configurations so that we have all the IP addresses and anything that's not being changed, and take out the old machine, install the new machine, check the ADA compliance, make sure that it's at the right height, there's nothing blocking it out front. Then go in and configure the machine with its new IP addresses, everything. Bring the ATM live. Have Armored or the branch come and replenish the machine. And then for the PC core swaps, it's pretty similar, other than we're only swapping out the core and not the entire machine. So you're going to document your balances, print the configuration again, perform the swap on the core that has preloaded software on it, bring up the machine and configure it. You're going to put the totals back in so that your machine balances at the end of the day or end of the week. And then bring the machine live, run some tests on it, make sure everything is working properly, and then we are finished. If we're doing a software load because the machine is already hardware compliant, it's a lot like the PC core swap. The procedures would be very similar. It would just be a little bit more time on site because of that software loading. And then once we determine the machine is up and running, we would just continue on with the project per the designated schedule until the project is finished. And that's pretty much it. Next slide.
Okay, great. Thank you, Travis, Sharon, and Bo. So we're going to move on to our Q&A session. We have received some good questions from the attendees prior to the webinar. So here are some questions, and let's get to the first one. Will there be a charge or project required by my ATM network for upgrading to Windows 10? And Travis, if you can answer that for us.
So we don't know exactly what your ATM network is going to charge you for the upgrade. Definitely get in the queue with your network right now, and be in communication with your FTSI project manager. Or if you're not a current FTSI customer or partner, we would of course love to speak with you about that. Or if you don't have a Windows 10 project in place, but you are currently an FTSI customer, then let's go ahead and get you a project manager assigned. And please work with your sales manager at FTSI to do that. But in any case, yes, definitely be in conversations with your ATM network right now to discuss with them what that project will entail. Unfortunately, we cannot speak to the specifics of what they're going to require on their end.
Thanks, Travis. Next question is, when will we be able to see and test the actual Windows 10 software?
I'll take that one too, Molly. So the Windows 10 software, Windows 10 is ready. Unfortunately, you cannot run it on an ATM yet. So that is what you're waiting for is essentially the ATM software that's provided by, say, NCR or Diebold or Hyosung to be certified with the ATM networks. Once that is certified and is ready to run on Windows 10, that's when you'll be able to load it onto a test unit and begin to actually test the upgrade process and kind of play around with the software once it's loaded. So in short, Windows 10 is ready, but the software such as Edge 10 or Interactive Client US Networks for NCR, that is not certified yet. You can expect it to be certified here this year in Q2. And once that's certified, that's when we'll start those upgrades and we can get it on some of your test machines or a pilot machine.
Thanks, Travis. Next question, Sharon, if you can give us an update on Co-op Windows 10 certification.
Sure. As Travis said, the networks are all in the process of doing their certification, and we're actively working with them on their control deployments. So the best bet for Co-op or for any of the networks is for you all to be reaching out to your account manager who you work with for your ATM driving. Let them know you're interested and let them give you the most current status from the networks. Some of them have, after the certification, a longer control deployment time frame before they make it generally available. Some of them will be much more quick. Again, as I mentioned, it's basically the Edge 7 software on Windows 10, so it's not necessarily new functionality. The best bet is to reach out to your networks, find out what their timing is, and if you're ready and interested, let them know you're ready, you're interested, you'd like to be first out so that they can put you on their list as well as having the FTSI folks put you on their upgrade list. So both teams have you aware. So as I said, for Co-op specifically, the certification is almost done, and we're working with them on getting some control deployments completed so that they can validate their software and all of their procedures for supporting Windows 10 projects.
Okay, great. Thanks, Sharon. And next question for you. Will Edge 10 support FDKs and will Activate support FDKs?
So yes, Edge 10 out of the box supports FDKs. Again, it's the Edge 7 software, so we're at basically an Edge 7 was Edge 5. So all of that capability has moved forward. Activate Enterprise, we're still in the final stages of determining if it makes sense to support the FDKs and the timing for that. We're really looking at making Activate Enterprise a more tablet-like as opposed to aligning two function keys because the newer hardware doesn't have function keys. So we're still looking at that and determining from a market perspective where we're going to be. Again, the Edge 10 software will do function keys and will allow you to be Windows 10 capable. And so we're still just working on kind of sizing and finalizing that piece. But we'll share more information as we get that.
Thank you, Sharon. Next question, can I upgrade ATM fleet at different phases? Bo, can you take this question?
Yes, and the answer to that is yes. ATMs can definitely be done in different phases. If you'd like to do, all your 80 series first, or do your swaps first and then your upgrades. It's all depending on what works for you as a financial institution. So there's no real restriction other than the time crunch that's coming down on the deadline for us. So if it needs to be done in phases, it wouldn't be a problem.
And next, are any resources going to be needed by our IT staff for the Windows 10 migration? If so, can you provide an estimate of time needed?
So when it comes to the ATMs, if they're going directly to their ATM driver, there shouldn't be any need for IT staff at all because that's all handled through, let's say, a co-op or a Fiserv or First Data. They handle all those communication devices, so it shouldn't be any issue there. If they are going through their internal network first and then out to their ATM driver, there could be some need for IT staff if any IP addresses are being updated or routes are being changed. It's usually pretty minimal on an ATM side. I couldn't provide an exact estimate of time. That would determine, fleet size, how many routers would be, how many reroutes would be needed or IP changes needed. But it's usually pretty minimal from an ATM perspective. The ITM side, which we're not talking about too much in this, but that would be more heavily on the IT staff than an ATM for sure.
Okay, thank you, Bo. We also have some questions from the audience. Is Edge 10 still slated for summer release?
This is Sharon, and again, it's with the networks right now for certifications and control deployments. So our hope is, since it's almost February, I can't believe how quickly January flew by, that we'll have it in general availability for everybody in the second quarter of 19. So not exactly sure yet when, as some of the networks finish up, we'll be able to move more quickly with those networks than maybe some of the other. But our plan is for it to be generally available second quarter 19.
Okay. And here is a question for Travis. Who do we need to speak with at FTSI about getting our new terminals installed and our others that are being upgraded?
All right, that's a good question. It depends on where you're at in the process. If you have not placed your order or done your fleet analysis and determined which terminals you're going to upgrade and which ones you'll be replacing, then speak to your FTSI sales manager. If you're not currently an FTSI customer or partner, then what we can do is there's contact information that you can contact us. If you're currently an FTSI customer, as I mentioned, please speak to your sales manager to get that going. If you've already placed your order for your upgrades or replacement units, then reach out to your project manager. If you're not sure who your project manager is, again, talk to your sales manager and they will get that going. If you know who your project manager is, reach out to them, let them know that you're ready to get going. Also, keep in mind you'll need to speak with your ATM network as well. So hopefully that answers your question. If there are any additional questions, please just reach out to us and we will make sure and get you going.
And Travis, I believe your answer also covered our next steps. Are there anything else you would like to add?
No, thank you. I think we did cover that. Great.
Yeah, okay. And for everyone, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me at this phone number or email ftsi-communications@ftsius.com. We will be sending out this recording of the webinar and the presentation deck to everyone within 24 hours. Thank you very much for joining us, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.